This may seem like a fairly routine exercise, but it's no ordinary delivery. The goods contained within are destined for some of the state's drought-stricken farmers. Almost 6,000 kilograms of food has been collected by members of the Care Fund, a non-profit organisation consisting of workers from the Sanitarium Health Food Company in Cooranbong. The 8 pallets of breakfast cereals, canned food and dried fruits left Cooranbong early this morning, bound for Coonabarabran in the state's northwest. On arrival this afternoon, the food will be distributed to local farmers. The Cooranbong group also raised $5,000, which will be converted to vouchers and given to the farmers, helping them to purchase items in their own town. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
James and Janet Walker have been travelling the state's stock routes for more than 2 years, but that came to an abrupt end near Weewaw today with the seizure of their 3,500 sheep. According to James, the Rural Lands Protection Board wants to close the stock routes for regeneration, but he claims there is plenty of feed for the hungry sheep.
A lot of green grass, a lot of cathead. There have been good rains here, and there's cattle feed and some of the best feed in New South Wales within 5 kilometres of here.
But the couple can't afford to truck the mob to Queensland to graze the stock routes.
We want to go to Queensland and we want to walk there. We've said we'd feed our sheep on the way, if that was a problem.
She claims the impounding of their sheep could mean an end to their livelihood.
It looks pretty bleak at the moment, but we're pretty good fighters.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
Christchurch Cathedral was an appropriate location for the launch of an appeal that aims to help the farmers who are living on a prayer. For many, the spirit of Christmas will be overshadowed by the realities of drought.
I think some families are in really serious trouble. The average debt in the upper hunt is over $250,000, and some families don't have enough cash to meet their daily needs.
But with the help of the community, the Samaritans Foundation intends to put some goodwill back into the festive season. The foundation aims to raise $100,000, with cash and Christmas hampers to be distributed to farmers in the Hunter and Manning districts.
They're very proud people, and it's very unusual for them to seek help, but that's an indication of how serious the situation is. Farming families are actually coming forward and requesting help.
The foundation is calling on the federal government to match the appeal dollar for dollar because the Hunter and Manning have missed out on drought assistance. People wishing to contribute to the Rural Christmas Appeal can send their donation to the Samaritans Foundation or give at any Greater Building Society. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Due to government legislation, Winfield's 19-year association with the Newcastle Jockey Club will end next year. Many organisations, including the New South Wales Rugby League, have been scrambling for suitable replacements for Winfield, the NJC finding the perfect ally in Tui's.
To have a major sponsor come along for the Cup is a wonderful thing, because I have visions of the Tui's Gold Cup going for a long, long time, much beyond our projected years.
Tui's will sponsor the Group 3 Newmarket Handicap next year, to be followed by the Gold Cup in 1996-97 with a further 3-year option. In racing terms, the deal completes a quadrella for Tui's, which is already involved with the Scone and Muswellbrook race clubs.
Of course, Cessnock's tied up with the NJC, controlled by the NJC, so the sponsorship arrangement we have with the NJC involves Cessnock. So we've got the big four, yeah, we're pretty happy about that.
This was all that was left of a Maitland house after it caught fire, killing its male occupant in May 1992. Senior Constable Paul O'Sullivan risked his life to save the man. That bravery was recognised at the presentation of the Police Commissioners Awards in Maitland. The officer of 13 years was awarded the Valour Award, the service's highest bravery honour.
I didn't think of it. It was basically automatic that when I found out that there was someone in there, that I had to get in and try and get them out.
Police involved in the Kengi siege on the mid-north coast were also honoured. 6 officers awarded Commissioners commendations for their role in the operation. Commendations were also given to 2 policemen who came under fire after a bank robbery at Willow Tree south of Tamworth last year. Senior Constable Graham Cady and Constable Richard Slight were shot at when chasing the getaway vehicle.
On these occasions we've seen where they've had or could have escalated the use of force even to what might be a fatal level. But they've failed to do so and persevered with some danger to themselves and resolved it without death. I think that's quite marvellous.
4 officers were also honoured for bravery during January's bushfires. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. There was no easy slide into the easy life, with Frank Wotherspoon helping Newcastle permanent executives pack more than 500 hampers for the Salvation Army. The charity has been flooded with requests for the hampers, nearly 2,000 families asking for help, 50 applying just yesterday.
Well, it's our contribution to those who are suffering hardship at Christmas time.
For Frank, it was also a chance to say goodbye to his fellow workers after nearly 3 decades at the Newcastle Permanent. He's seen it expand from a $30 million 2-branch operation to a $1.2 billion venture with 39 branches.
I'm not one of those guys who've been marking the days off, but I've had a good innings and I recognise that.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Last night's electrical storm over Newcastle provided a spectacular display. But the fury did not pass without casualties, the obelisk suffering a direct hit from a lightning bolt. Huge cracks at the top of the 1850 structure could be seen. Today, the area was cordoned off. It's not the first time the monument, used by mariners as a navigational guide, has been struck by lightning. Back in January 1987, it fell victim to another violent electrical storm which shattered the top section, scattering bricks and mortar. Although the full extent of the latest blow is yet to be assessed by Hunter Water, the damage is similar to that caused by the '89 earthquake, which resulted in the top third being replaced. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
They only arrived in Australia this morning but wasted no time in getting a look at their new home ground. Seka Sovatabua on the left and Sam Marawa were given the guided tour by Knights General Manager Brad Mellon. They've come full of high hopes, trying to mix it with the best players in the world's premier rugby league competition.
I think I can manage in Aussie too.
Sovatabua is still sporting the scars from his sevens clash with the Knights last week in Fiji and is keen to turn foes into friends.
Best part about it is just to come and get some experience and play with some experienced players in the Newcastle Knights.
Both are dual internationals, 25-year-old Sovatabua playing centre and wing, 21-year-old Marawa a centre or lock. The new recruits are sure to provide some extra spark in the Knights backline.
It's good that the boys have now arrived and they can settle into the Newcastle community and commence training and join the rest of the squad. So yeah, we're very excited about it, and I'm sure that they're going to prove very successful purchases for us.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
After a 3-hour meeting, the Academic Senate emerged. Now, for the first time, the University of Newcastle will offer students an education degree. Previously, students wanting to be teachers studied a discipline, such as arts or science, followed by an extra year to attain a diploma of education. From 1996, students will be able to study for 4 years and graduate with 2 bachelor degrees, or study for 5 years and graduate with a bachelor degree in their chosen field and a master's in education.
The strength of it is that it allows the students to keep 2 options open, that of being a teacher or being a professional in their chosen area.
The move is part of a restructuring of the Faculty of Education. Run along similar lines to the law degree, the Vice-Chancellor believes it will set the standard for other universities to follow. Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News.
The crushed cars marked the site of a tragedy. The 29-year-old Newcastle driver of this vehicle killed instantly, along with the 58-year-old Raymond Terrace driver of the White Falcon. Emergency crews worked frantically to stabilise the condition of a 74-year-old passenger of the Falcon. After more than an hour, the elderly woman was freed, suffering leg and chest injuries. An 18-month-old baby had been saved by the Falcon safety capsule, the 47-year-old female rear passenger suffering chest injuries. All 3 were airlifted to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital by the Westpac Rescue helicopter. But the full horror of the crash was only starting to surface. Just minutes before the crash, police received several calls from distressed drivers. They said a car was swerving from one side of the road to the other and warned if the driver wasn't stopped, somebody would be killed.
In fact, we're actually en route to intercept that vehicle when they got the report of this collision.
It's just a kamikaze mission by the driver in the yellow vehicle.
Rod Chapman could just as easily have been a victim himself.
Behind me was a carload of young ladies. Well, they followed my path, luckily. And in turn, after that, the 3rd car was the fatal vehicle.
Coroner Graham Strait is investigating the crash. A post-mortem will be conducted on the driver of the Crusader, testing for signs of alcohol or drugs. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. These are fishermen who don't cry about the one that got away, as they say they don't even get bites anymore. They're representatives of 4 Lake Macquarie angler groups, which are concerned about the effects of haul netting on the waterway's fish numbers.
They feel that they're wasting their time trying to catch fish down this end of the lake, particularly from Poobar Island south, because it's continually haul netted and there's no fish
Anglers will meet at Gwandalin Bowling Club tomorrow morning to finalise plans for a marine park for the lake. It'll include a ban on netting, and they've called on the state government to act immediately.
We need new information on the lake so that we know what's really happening with the fish stocks in the lake.
After 16 weeks, Australia's top guns came down to earth today, finishing the Air Force's most intense flying course. Williamtown Air Base, the last destination in a tour de force that has seen the F-18 pilots fly all over the country. They went to war with American F-16s over Australia's top end. The practice sortie's a crucial step in passing the Combat Fighters Instructors course. The pilots learn every facet of the Hornets operation, from air-to-air combat to refuelling. The last assignment was an overnight mission to Sale in Victoria. The return flight was to include a simulated raid on Singleton this morning, but cloud cover forced the pilots to withhold their firepower. But after a gruelling course, the pilots were just happy to have passed their greatest test.
Fairly busy. We had a number of aircraft meeting and on the way to the target, so fairly busy and fairly stressful, but very glad it's all over.
These crack pilots will now teach others how to fly Australia's most lethal jet. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Water police scanned the choppy sea around Zenith Beach until light faded yesterday. The Corlett man was swimming near this rocky outcrop. His three friends on boogie boards raised the alarm after seeing him struggle, then disappear. Today, Zenith Beach was almost deserted. Hopes are now fading of finding the man alive. The police and coastal patrol launches searched the area from first light until mid-afternoon, but could find nothing. Surf lifesavers have reissued a warning not to swim on unpatrolled beaches, especially in big surf.
Throughout New South Wales and Australia now, the council's erecting signs. If you're going to a beach that has a sign, dangerous to swim there, then you should not swim there.
Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News.
"80 people gathered at the Tari West Bowling Club last night. The residents of the floodplain area say they're worried the bypass, which will be built 2.5 metres above the ground, will cause soil erosion. An independent engineer has predicted a 1 in 20-year flood could have a devastating effect.
The material carried in the river will be slowed down and possibly deposited on the farmland adjacent to the embankments. This probably would have a far greater economic burden on the farmers of the area than the periodic inundation of their houses.
Grant Calvin says fences and farm tracks would need to be replaced, and siltation could destroy crops and pastures. Roads and Traffic Authority personnel attended the meeting. Community Relations Manager Peter Henderson says the Jumeric Island section of the bypass is near completion.
We desperately need the bypass in there as a matter of road safety for the travelling public throughout New South Wales, and this is all the people of New South Wales. And we've taken into account the flood-prone areas around Taree, and we've provided the best modelling to make certain that we come up with the best option.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
The search continues by the city's unemployed, but for many it's become an exercise in frustration. 30% more jobs were advertised last month than the corresponding time last year, but 8,000 less people have work. It appears those who are trying to get employment simply don't have the skills to fill the vacancies.
And the main industries that have been growing there are wholesale, retail, trade, recreation, tourism, banking, finance, and it does appear that there's a lack of suitably qualified people to fill positions within this service sector of our regional economy.
Other factors making it harder for local job seekers are outsiders applying for the positions and employers not following up the ads with work. For many, this has meant giving up hope altogether, with fewer people applying for work as the year progresses. But economists say there could still be some hope of Christmas cheer, despite the mixed messages.
But I'd like to be optimistic. I think there are grounds for optimism, and I think I'll go along with the job ads suggesting that employment growth should start to come good in coming months.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
This is the result of 8 weeks' work. The Wingham Bridge, a landmark in the town for nearly 100 years, has undergone a rebuild. Some of the piers were repaired and the old deck was replaced with a new one of stress-laminated timber. Local primary and high school students gathered to watch the opening ceremony. The Mayor of Taree, Ralph Metcalfe, alongside Wendy Machin, the member for Port Macquarie, prepared to cut the ribbon. But somebody else stole the show.
Upstaged by a DeGroot on a Harley Davidson. Well, I have to say, I've seen it all now, but I think it's a lot of fun.
The official party was more successful on the second attempt. The first cars made their way across the bridge. Wendy Machin has a special interest in the project. She grew up in Wingham.
It is good to see the bridge repaired. It's the main artery. It's a very busy road actually in this Manning area. There was a problem, so it was really nice the state government was able to come to the party and help the council make it workable again.
Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
The C.A. Brown village at Booragul is the cornerstone of the Anglican Church's aged care service. After acquiring properties at Toronto and Carey Bay, the church is now caring for more than 600 elderly residents. Both facilities were run by Intracare and owned by the Greater Building Society, but the Anglican Church has bought them for around $20 million. The deal includes a block of land at Wallsend.
We're hopeful that there will be a grant available for hostel accommodation there in the next few months, which will allow us to build another 50-bed complex in that area as well.
Chairman of the C.A. Brown Village, John Kilpatrick, says there is a growing need in the area, which the church is trying to meet.
There's not enough good quality accommodation. We have an ageing population and quite frankly the more we can get and keep and provide, I think, through the churches and the Masonic lodges and so on, then the better.
With the inclusion of the Carey Bay and Toronto sites, expenditure for the C.A. Brown Village will increase to around $12 million a year, with 400 people employed. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Morris and Robin Tully run a merino sheep property Girracool 40 kilometres east of Armidale. They've suffered under 4 years of drought, but today all the hard work paid off.
Something that you dream of happening, but not necessarily ever happen. But yeah, when it comes along, it's great.
So how much would you expect to pay for a bale of wool?
The average price for superfine wool is around about $1,500 a bale. It has moved up dramatically this year, but this bale would represent probably a value of about $117,000 to $120,000 for the bale.
That's 104,100 cents per kilogram, an Australian record for this year. The wool was bought by Italian company Loro Piana. It will probably be used to make suits. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Around 120 attended last night's meeting at Hexham, most happy for two members of the committee to talk to the Greyhound Control Board in Sydney. But they stopped short of giving them the authority to resolve the issue with the board, which will reside over a meeting at Beaumont Park on Sunday, December 18. However, there were some that thought their efforts should be directed elsewhere. The meeting then became quite fiery, with reports that another greyhound club in the area is likely to reduce its prize money. This, coupled with the fear that Beaumont Park will be sold off, and the challenge of gaining another licence, provoked some into action. A motion from the floor to resume racing was then lost by some 20 votes. But even if it had been successful, it wouldn't have ensured a return to racing. That decision is up to the board of the Newcastle Jockey Club. They will meet on December 19 to consider selling Beaumont Park and have already had several approaches from real estate agents.